Welcome to the Men Don't Talk podcast. My name's Reggie. What don't we talk about?
We don't talk about hepatitis C.
Hepatitis. Would you like to
I'd love
talk
to.
about
I'd love to talk about hepatitis.
Okay, you want to talk your experience through and maybe educate me, yeah?
Okay, I'll do my best, Reggie.
Yeah.
I'll do my best. Yeah, let's talk about hepatitis C. So, my experiences, I suppose I've got to go right back to the beginning to talk about this and talk about how my life was. It's got some sort of, you will see what it has got to do with it later on when I talk about how I might have contracted hepatitis C and I talk about going into treatment. But I remember, growing up, I grew up in a mining town in Burnley, and I remember it was during the 80s. It was Maggie Thatcher, and I remember seeing billboards, and there were pictures of spoons and syringes, and and it was saying it was an AIDS epidemic. And,
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
I had no idea, but to me, AIDS was bad, and it was just really bad. It was a talk, and people were talking about it, and it had a lot of hysteria about it, and I just remember thinking, well, you'll never catch me doing that. You'll never catch me sticking needles in me and risking getting AIDS, and that's all I kind of knew then, and I kind of carried on going up, and I kind of went the wrong way in life. I started smoking a lot of weed and doing other drugs and this, that and the other, and then I don't know. I mean, the first time I think I put myself at risk at getting hepatitis C, it was one day. My mate, we were drinking. I think we were drinking Alston pills, and he started pouring something called methadone in my drink. Now, methadone is a heroin substitute, which gets you totally off your head, by the way, Reg. And so he must have, I don't know how much he poured in this, but I remember I'd got back to his house and I came round to him going, "Tense your arm, Daniel, tense your arm." And it stuck a needle in me, and he was banging me up with some amphetamine to bring me round off this methadone. Now, I had no idea, but in hindsight, I could have got hepatitis C then. I was 15-year-old and he was sticking a needle in my arm. Now, it's not just a needle that could give you hepatitis C, it's all the paraphernalia. You can get it off the water, off the filters, and even off the tourniquet or off the works officers where they were cooking up. So that was the first time I could have contracted hepatitis.
So,
C.
Danny, where was the education? There was no education. Or is it just that thing where we're like when we're addicts or we're progressing to become addicts or whatever that means? So if someone would have told me when I first started taking drugs that this, I probably heard it.
Yeah.
I probably heard it, seeing all them syringes, and because when you're looking for HIV, you're not looking for hepatitis C.
Absolutely.
And what how many types of hepatitis are there?
Well, there's quite a few. I know that there's hepatitis A, and there's hepatitis B, and there's hepatitis C, and they're all a little bit different. So, as far as I know, they're all blood-to-blood viruses. So you catch them just through blood-to-blood. But hepatitis B is slightly different. You can actually get vaccinated for hepatitis B, but then there's no cure.
How does that work?
I have no idea, to be honest, but, you can protect yourself against getting hepatitis B, but once you've got it, it's just damage limitation.
Is hepatitis A the one that means that you've got it, you've got it and you have it?
No.
Because, obviously, through this podcast, we're going to talk through the different types and variants, and kind of also as well, at the end of this, we're going to talk through how you get treated, what treatment there is, who to say.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So the early drug use, like you might have caught it then.
Yeah, it was possible. I put myself at risk quite a few times. I went on to, I was injecting drugs quite often, quite regularly, from 15 onwards. Also, it's not just drug use. It's one of the main transmission routes. But at the time, and I think it was, there were a big sting recently about blood transfusions. So prior to 1991, there was a lot of contaminated blood, and people was picking up hepatitis C then. And like what you were just discussing there, Reggie, there wasn't much information about it. I think it was called something else then. It could have been non-HIV or something like that. Yeah.
Why do you think that when they already do reckon? Hepatitis is that they I mean, hepatitis, I believe, is a Latin word. Is that right? Hepatitis? I think it might have. I might have, but I have to Google that. You know, it does sound. It does sound a bit Latin, doesn't it? You know, like I don't know. Maybe we could find that out whether, because if it was called that, so there must have had some origin of research, in order to call something a name, because you know, if there isn't a name like HIV is, it stands for something human. IV virus, isn't it?
Intravenous.
Yeah, that's something like that. Yeah, and AIDS is the.
That's another term.
Yeah, that's another term, because one's HIV means that you've got it, and the other one means that you've like ones that you can treat and ones that you can got it. I believe so, but I don't know. I'm not that. I think is it? Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, let's have a look at that.
I think in a nutshell.
Oh yeah,
there's just a lot more information.
The word hepatitis comes from the ancient Greek word hepa, meaning liver, and the Latin itis, meaning inflammation. So liver inflammation.
That's right.
So, I mean, it says here there's a World Hepatitis Day. And we'll find out that at the end of it. And
there is. I can't remember the exact date, but I've got fundraising on World Hepatitis Day. We've done testing events. We've done all sorts. I mean, we're discovering a lot more about hepatitis C.
So going back to your first, I mean, did you, like, I mean, when I first identified as an addict, you know, like I had to look back at kind of where it all come from, or where, you know, I'm a picker, you know, I want to pick it apart, you know what I mean? Yeah, but I could well understand that you've called something that you know where you've called it from, but you don't know when.
Absolutely. I mean, I've put myself at risk many times. I mean, there's a few myths as well. People think they can get it sexually transmitted, which is true, but I mean, it's blood to blood. So, yeah, I mean, you've got to be really going at it, you know. You can't get it through saliva, which a lot of people tend to think that you can. I think that's HIV, Reg, but I'm not totally clued up about that. But you know, you still have to drink a lot of saliva.
Because there are very misconceptions and stigmas, isn't there?
Yes,
you know. I mean, the stigma to hepatitis C is the fact that you would have to use a needle, but you can catch hepatitis C from blood.
The stigma, it prevents a lot of people coming in to get tested to find out whether they've got hepatitis C, and there's some really good treatments now. You know, it's I mean, to be fair, Reggie, it's a really painful death. You know, if you were to leave hepatitis C and you were to leave it untreated, you'd end up, you know, like yellow Teletubby.
Yeah.
You end up looking like that because your liver gets inflamed.
That's it. Yeah.
It can turn cancerous. You can actually go on to get liver cancer. It can be really painful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but yeah, I mean, the transmission routes, it's, you know, you could have a dodgy tattoo. You know, you could use someone else's toothbrush. You could use somebody else's razor and then contract it that way.
What, that little?
Little, yes. Tiny. You can actually contract it with blood that's been left on the surface, and I do believe it can live for 3 months.
Well, so
the virus.
So, say for instance, paramedics and people that are involved, because you know when you're like if you're fortunate enough around to try and save someone that's been in an accident or any form of like that. So really, you know, not being aware is one thing, isn't it? But the thing is, you can't leave someone like obviously bleeding. You would help. You can't say, like, I've just got to wait and I've just got to put bags in them.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got to remember, if we haven't got a sore or a cut on our hands, we're perfectly fine. But I mean, yeah, doctors these days, they all wear gloves, they all wear protection. They don't just go, you know, we don't do operations. We don't pick people up who are bleeding in the streets without protection, without protecting ourselves.
So when you like symptoms, what we've got with symptoms?
Right, symptoms. That's a really good point, that, Reggie. You know, the main symptom for hepatitis C is no symptoms at all.
Well,
you can go years and years without the hepatitis being active, and then all of a sudden it kicks in. But there are symptoms. You know, we can feel really tired. You know, just like motivation and whatnot.
So was that no experience?
No, not really. I mean, I was using drugs at the time, to be fair, Reggie, and any symptoms that I had was mild up. Yes.
Yeah, I had certain things when I was using. It was kind of, I couldn't identify with certain things because obviously I was so numb by what I was using that I kind of, and my mind weren't bothered about it. Matter of fact, at that particular time, I think I felt it would have been a good thing, you know, like we all do, you know.
Well, that's it. I mean,
So your symptoms alone, what was that?
right, so my symptoms, like I say, I probably was tired. The drugs made me tired. You know, I probably experienced a lot of them. But like I say, they can, you know, it can be really drastic. You can just blow up. You know, you can turn jaundiced. You can go really yellow. It can be really uncomfortable. It can be really painful. Or yeah, you can have mild side effects and not even.
Is that the similar effect as alcohol? You know, when the livers pack up and they turn yellow. Is that the same thing?
It is very similar. You know, so it's pancreatitis cancer that you. Well, it's all to do with the liver. So alcohol attacks the liver, and so does hepatitis C. With hepatitis C, it's a virus that just attacks the liver. But the liver, it's quite. It's a magical organ. You know, it can regenerate itself. But after, you know, if it gets attacked so much, it does get to a point where it's beyond repair, where it can't regenerate itself, and that's cirrhosis. You know, but at first, generally, people that are heavy drinkers, they have fatty livers and they're not that healthy. But if they carry on, it will turn.
Because your liver processes, doesn't it?
As it's a filter.
Yeah,
it's a filter. You know, it gets rid of all the toxins out of your body.
Is that blood? Yeah. Is it? Does it? Because I'm not a doctor.
No, me neither.
You understand? Like, you know a hell of a lot more about it than I do.
I mean, what I do know is this cure street now, and we don't have to, you know, we don't have to go through that anymore, Reggie. And the old medications of hepatitis C, that was terrible. It was like cancer treatment. At the time, I was in active addiction, and I knew a few friends that went through the treatment. And unfortunately, only 50% of them it actually worked for.
Right.
The other 50%, they just come, you know, no matter all the pain they went through. And it was painful. You know, it felt.
And what was that called? Interfere. Spot can't. Yeah, like they do like to.
It was like a swear word.
Yeah, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah.
So
I just didn't want to engage in that.
So where like men don't talk, we don't talk. So who did you talk about? Who did you talk? Did you talk to someone? Did you turn around and say to your people you've been using needles with? You went up, look at that. You know, like you understand what I mean?
So I had to do the hard way, and we don't have to.
Give me the hard way.
The hard way was just sitting with it, being embarrassed. I felt, you know, I didn't do anything about it. I didn't talk about it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't realise my life was in danger. I didn't realise it was going to be very painful. It was just embarrassing. I didn't want to talk about it. I kept it under the carpet, you know. But now it's just so much easier, you know. People have talked to me about it and taken away that stigma, you know. And there's really good treatments. You can just, you know, talk to the hepatitis C team. They will look after you.
How did you finally identify that you had hepatitis C? And how did you feel about the treatments that they was going to give to you? Knowing full well that, like, you got stuff like interferon, and now obviously as technology and research has advanced, and now they've got a treatment that is kind of pretty like nailed down. I mean, you could get that. See, what it is like you know, you guys who had it first did the hard work for the other guys. You know, for the guys that kind of, I mean, that's a really big thing, isn't it? You know, to kind of put yourself forward and kind of really, you didn't know how groundbreaking it was, did you?
Well, I was lucky. I've got the new treatment. When I found out that I had hepatitis, it's quite a funny story, really. It was years and years ago. I think it was around 2000, 2001 when I found out that I'd contracted hepatitis. And funnily enough, it was there was a hospital that was testing people for hepatitis C. It was a special event, and they paid for your petrol, and they also paid for your travel to go back home. So basically, I made a tenner out of it.
No, it's good.
I managed to go and score. So I'd go and get tested for hepatitis C, and I'd get a tenner to go and score with.
That's insane, though, isn't it? Like, what you just said there is absolutely insane.
Mental.
So you're in somewhere to get treatment for something that 9 times out, like I would say 99% of the time, you'd get it from injecting and using needles. Like, really, like you'd say to yourself, for fuck's sake, like, I don't want to stick a needle in my arm. Yeah.
Well, Reggie, I mean, that's another thing. That's how powerful the drugs were back then. But that's kind of how I found out. And to be fair, I felt really ashamed when I first found out. But I didn't know all the answers. I didn't know all the information. Now, apparently, 1 in 4 people actually clear the virus on their own. And so just because the antibodies come back positive for the hepatitis C, it doesn't necessarily mean to say you've got it.
Right. Okay.
I didn't know that. I had no idea. So I was just buffling away, and keeping it under my hat. Like I said, we didn't talk back then. There was no information. We didn't share this with anyone, and I certainly weren't looking for treatment. I just wanted the £10 at the time. But like I said, I think that's a different story.
Yeah.
And that's when I found out that I'd come into contact with hepatitis C. And like I say, I had no thoughts to doing anything about it then, because I'd heard some absolute horror stories.
Is that horror stories through having this interferon and stuff like that? So you thought you was going to get that, and your life's going to be like absolutely palmy.
It was more than that. I think at the time, I was a using addict, and I didn't believe you could go and get treatment. I didn't think I was entitled to go and get treatment. But that's it. That's a myth. Every addict, everybody, no matter what you're up to, if you're still using, if you're not using, if you try, whatever's going on for you, you're entitled to treatment. But I didn't know that. And at the time, though, it was interferon. You're quite right about that, Reg. And I think there were another reason. Nobody really engaged with me because I was just a bit chaotic. And you had to keep your medication in a fridge. You had to be on it, and you got quite ill. Most people got quite ill going through the treatment, and it didn't necessarily work. 50% of the chance of the time you go through all that palaver for 3 months, however long the treatment were, and it won't actually work, so it won't clear you.
And now the treatment is...
it's...
is it like no side effects?
None at all. My experience, I didn't have any side effects whatsoever. I was in a good place in my life at the time when I started the medication. Not that it made much difference, but I do work with clients that, that taking 1 tablet a day can be quite hard work.
Yeah.
But then again, that's
especially if it's going to do good for you.
Absolutely. And that's what we do. So the hepatitis C team, we get people through treatment. So it doesn't matter.
And we're talking the mental side of it, yeah? Because you would really have to get your head around this stuff, wouldn't you? Like... It's like one thing, you're battling addiction, and then you find out that you've contracted something. Because we're not talking about we're talking about any needle use. So when people are injecting different substances, yeah, it's not, because what it is, the stigma is around, let's say heroin, yeah, people that use heroin, but people inject virtually anything, into them. And even people that inject, I've even heard people inject alcohol, and the thing is that you can catch it from that.
Oh, absolutely.
You understand what I mean? Yeah, nothing like you'd think yourself like, okay, well, alcohol and anything they can put in a needle, you can use.
We can, and there's a lot of alcoholics we test for the reasons. When you're drunk, you're not really, you're not firing all 4 cylinders. You're not aware of what's going on. You're not aware of your surroundings. A lot of alcoholics, they're in places where there are needles lying about. They could sit on one. They get themselves into all sorts of, situations. But accidents homemade tattoos. That's a way you could.
See, this is another thing you spoke about, hepatitis B. So you've got like majority of the time when you're exploring like kind of tattoos. Yeah, I've not got no tattoos myself. Exploring tattoos, and you're very young and adolescent, you kind of I know I've seen people that have done the needle and the pen and stuff like that, and kind of next thing you know, like it's all inflamed and blown up. And so it's kind of informative to know that that you can catch it like that, because certain environments, we'd say in prisons, you get a lot of homemade tattoos, because majority of times as well, like there was a big thing about tattoo shops and sterile and cleanliness and stuff like that, and it's all about one, like don't use someone else's needle, and two, but the thing is, if you go into a tattoo shop,
And that's it. I mean, at the end of the day, now, if you do want testing, and I'd encourage anybody to get a test. Any GP will test you. It's just a little pinprick. It goes away and they test you, see if you've come in contact with the if you've come in contact with hepatitis C, it'll come back. And they'll come back straight away with a pinprick test, but they'll generally do a broader test, which will test you for HIV, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C. And when it comes back, it'll also test for the antigen. So
yeah. And maybe I might even ask my doctor, because I asked my doctor to test me for prostate cancer, and we had a guy on the podcast, and he did
did you do the finger up the bum thing?
No. What he done was and this is a true experience, and I spoke with Simon since, and I went and asked the doctor, and I said, look, I was in there for St. Kells, and they said, look, we're going to send you for blood tests. I said, while I'm there, can I be tested for prostate cancer? And do you know what the doctor said to me? Why? Yeah.
Blockers everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, why? And I said, do I need a reason? And the thing is, I thought myself, it's like getting blood out of a stone, And I thought myself, can't you just, she said, yeah, we can test you, but why? And I said, I'm 50 years of age. I've done a podcast around prostate cancer, and I'll be a fool not to go and get myself tested, yeah? Absolutely. I mean, absolutely, I'll be a fool. So I looked at that. So with the doctor, have they got an obligation to test you if you're asked?
Oh, I would have thought so. I mean,
I reckon so.
I mean,
maybe we could put that out there, really.
There's risk factors for anybody, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
You could have had an accident. There are risk factors. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. They are obliged to give you a test. But as we know, we could do a whole podcast on doctor surgeries, just getting past the receptionist.
It is, yeah. I mean, I will get that. But, okay, so what I'm going to ask you about now is, what are you doing now with Hep C?
Okay, so, yeah, I'm working with...
Start from how you got attached to Hep C. I mean, look, something must have given you the interest to do this.
Okay, so yeah, I mean it's not so much that like I was saying. I mean, I've got a background of addiction, and so I've come from a life where I've just spending all my time dossing and using, and and now I'm being a bit more productive. So I've got various skill sets, and helping people is one of the skill sets that I've got. So I facilitate alcohol groups. I work with aftercare teams, but I also work and link with the Hepatitis C Trust, and I really enjoy doing it. That's just going around detoxes, rehabs, drug places, and basically, so all I'm doing is doing educational talks. So I'm taking the stigma out of hepatitis C. I'm also talking about potential risks, transmission routes, and ultimately I'm getting everybody tested.
Yeah.
And that's
how long does it take to get tested?
Oh, it takes minutes.
So what is it? Is it a simple?
It's very simple. So I'll test you for antibodies. The result comes back in 20 minutes.
Okay.
If it comes back positive for antibodies, that means we need to do further tests, and then we have to send the bloods off, and that can take something like 2 weeks. But we can get you into treatment really quick. So usually, if I'm getting tested and into treatment, and we find somebody who's positive, that can all happen within a month.
Yeah, so there's support there, isn't there?
Absolutely. And even the most manageable client that are still using drugs, but are still really chaotic, I can get them through the treatment. I'll call them up every week. I can even... The Hepatitis C Trust leave them buy them a bit of shopping and put credit on the phone. Yeah, I'll really look after them.
And who was the Hepatitis C Trust set up by originally?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not really sure. All I know is the government injected a lot of money into eliminating hepatitis C. So it built up around that. So that money got injected. The Hepatitis C Trust was formed, and then it branched off and went nationwide.
Yeah. And where would, apart from going to your doctors, anyone that's engaging in the in the local drug services,
any drugs can do this. Of course, any of them places, they will signpost you to the right place to get tests. And that's if they can't do it themselves, which I'm sure they can. I mean, I go around different drug services and I test people. I also, I'm based at my own drug services in Bromley. But Yeah, it's not a problem now. It's not a problem. The problem is the lack of information. But I mean, after tonight, the viewers that have seen this, they'll have some idea. They could be sat with somebody tonight. They could be sat with someone on the settee, and the person's not sure whether they've contracted hepatitis C. And they can say, well, there's a chance. Why don't you get yourself tested?
Well, that's why it's important to share, subscribe, and subscribe to this channel. As I say, we've got loads more content coming in, and loads more people like yourself. You're like a nice recovery angel. You know, like you kind of
You're not so bad yourself, right?
What you're doing for this is, I mean, you know what? You're breaking down that stigma, and men can talk to each other. And women, because this is not like, it doesn't discriminate.
It certainly does.
You know, we've got loads of things that just don't discriminate against. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. You know, because you've got the guys and the girls that are injecting like all these other different substances, and they need to be aware of this. You know, like, I mean, you would think that there'd be posters everywhere.
You would.
You know, it's just like the same thing for recovery. You know, and I think there's a whole thing, an old complete stigma around drug addicts, you know, an addiction, because we call it addiction, you know, it's across the board.
It's an illness.
It is, yeah. Well, but why, I mean, you can put, I mean, because there's, the thing about this is such a, it looks like now they've perfected it to where there's a good success rate. Yeah. But with a, see, what the thing is, this is a question I would like to ask you, is if someone gets rid of Hep C, can they catch it again?
They certainly can.
Yeah, they can. So
They can, but we can get them into treatment again.
Yeah, but the thing is, don't you feel that, you know, that's a whole different, like, branch off of, if someone keeps on catching hepatitis C, they're using dirty works, they're getting involved with, around that, and then there's that's where the education is, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it can be problematic, but some of these guys are that unmanageable, they don't know any other way, you know, so they still get themselves into situations where they're using dirty works. The good thing is, we will treat them again, and we are doing more. We're getting clean works, we're picking them up from drug services, we're dropping them off these guys, and we're taking the dirty works. You know, other than that, there's not a great deal more we can do, but we are looking into it, and we're open to suggestions.
See, even that's a chore for a needle user, isn't it? Yeah, like, to kind of imagine that, like, you've got like your den where you're going to use your shit, yeah, all right, you're going to use your stuff, right, and you've got really cool, put your needle over there, you know, it's just like a tidy puff box, you know what I mean? It's like kind of you've got to keep it clean.
These guys, they could live next door to the chemist, you know, the drugs turn up, and all there is a dirty works, or it means going out, getting a clean one from the chemist and coming back. They're not likely to do that because the gear might be gone, so they're going to use a dirty works.
So if you sterilise the needle after you use it, that doesn't work.
That's a myth.
Well, this is another thing as well. We'll break down these myths in it.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, like,
I mean, because it's damage limitation to a certain, but I mean, it's still
so if blood can stay on these for up to
3 months,
up to 3 months, and you can catch it off of there, a little bit of sterilisation ain't going to work, is it? Really?
Not really, Reg.
You know, it's not going to work.
I wouldn't like to take my chances. I really wouldn't.
Well, no, I mean, obviously, like, you're one of these stories that when I heard your story, you know, about where you come from and the work that you put into the Hep C Trust and getting involved in that, putting something good back into the community, you know, putting something good back in so you're helping people. You know, I think as well we come into recovery, and part of our thing is we can only keep what we have by giving it away. And the thing is, you're giving away your time, your energy, your knowledge to help people kind of and kind of look at this. You know?
I think it's important, and like you say, you know, that's been my experience of, you know, I asked for a bit of help, and, you know, I came to people that could help me, and they helped me. I got clean, I stayed clean, and now I help other people.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
And I've took it one step further with Hep C. It's kind of important to me, I think. I spent many years feeling ashamed, you know, and I didn't tell people, you know. There were times when we were sharing spoons, but I wouldn't tell people that.
Sharing spoons? So you can catch it off a spoon?
Absolutely.
Well, that's
all paraphernalia.
So so it's basically anything that you come in contact with.
Anything you come in contact with. We're not just talking syringes.
See, this is the thing.
Filters.
This is where the education comes in.
Use the tourniquets. you can catch hepatitis C.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's, I would say, I mean, like I say, there are other transmission routes, but it is one of the main transmission routes. And also, I mean, cocaine. People who smoke cocaine, there's quite a good chance as well, sharing straws.
I saw that, and because I remember my cocaine use, and they used to call it a Winston nose. Like when he had the new notes coming, or a fresh note, and the amount of time I've stuck it up my ear and I've fucking blood's come down. Never ruminate. I had another nostril, and and you can catch it off that.
Yeah. I mean, these new notes as well. I mean, I've been clean since these new notes.
Yeah,
but you can even cut it with them, can't you?
Exactly right.
Sharp when you
well, especially when you get a brand new note when you get them from the bank, and so it's about being aware, full stop. So where do you think in 5-10 years time how our education will grab hold of this? Because
I mean, we're hoping to eliminate it. Now, I can't see that we're going to totally eliminate it, but I mean, I got involved in Bromley, and it's down as totally eliminated. Now, I do know there's still going to be people that's positive for hepatitis C, but we've done an amazing job. And if we keep good, I mean, we're getting the most chaotic people at the moment that are just so manageable. We're actually getting them through treatment. I could tell you some stories. There's one guy called Billy the Quid, and he's barred off the main street. Every shop, he's just.
I've heard of that film.
Yeah. We've actually got Billy the Quid treated.
Yeah.
We've eliminated his Hep C.
Look at that.
It's fucking amazing. So I mean, if we can,
right, eliminate the care with the creates.
Absolutely. We do care. We do care.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be doing it if you didn't care.
Absolutely.
Because you've got to have an element of care in order to get people, to actually get them round to the fact of getting yourself tested, getting yourself treated, and moving forward.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, society, the kind of thing. A lot of society are a bit jealous that people are just getting smashed all the time, but a lot of them think it's a choice.
So where would you like the Hep C trust to be in 5 or 10 years' time? Where would you like that?
I mean, personally, I'd love to see Hep C being a thing of the past, not existing, and that money can go somewhere else, into something different, I'm going to say COVID, but COVID's not really a thing these days, is it? That seems to have tailed off, but hopefully, we're winning the battle. We're winning the battle. The more information we put out there, the more people are aware of where to go and get treatment, what to look out for, and what the symptoms are, then the better we do.
So, okay, let's talk about touch on some of the history of hepatitis. The first case of AIDS was in 1908. The first case of AIDS.
Okay.
Yeah, and by the time it got to the human variant, and by the time it got to it was 1950s or 1960s. Yeah. Hepatitis C, what's its origin? Where does it go to? How far can we go back to say, well, because they first of all they said HIV was transmitted by monkeys, so how could that, is there any myth, is there anything
that can only go as far back as the 80s really, and hepatitis was called non-HIV or something. Yeah, it's called non-something.
Because it's often confused.
It wasn't recognised as hepatitis C. There wasn't a cure for it. There wasn't a treatment. And up until very recently, there hasn't been a treatment that is guaranteed to work.
So what we're going to do, you're going to, last 5 minutes, your message to the camera about hepatitis C.
Yeah, my message, it's not a dirty illness. It's just a regular illness. A lot of people, most people, they've probably been checked out recently. But I mean, what I would say is just get yourself checked out.
Yeah,
it's not a dirty thing. It's not, and anybody could, just when you're next seeing your GP, even though it's quite hot these days, but the next time, just make sure you've been tested. Make sure you've had your test. Like I say, there's some great treatments at the moment. It's a lot of people are still under the illusion, especially using addicts, that they can't get treatment, Reg. They think, I can't get treatment because I'm still using it. It's horrible.
Or if you see Danny.
If you see me.
If I ask you. Yeah, well, you see me. I'll ask you to ask it. Look at that. Look, we've got a little thing going on.
That's it. I mean, if you've got any major concerns, obviously just go to your local drug services, doctors, get a number for the hepatitis C team. Just get your test, get your sorted, get your treatment.
Is there a website? Is it Hepatitis www? Have you got anything you want to plug there?
Absolutely, yeah. If you just have a look, just Google hepatitis C. There is a website there.
Yep.
It'll come up, you'll get a number, you'll get helpline, it'll signpost you to the right direction. Yeah. Yeah, there is plenty of information out there. Plenty of information. I can see we're winning the war. We're winning the war, Reg, but there's still a lot of you guys out there that haven't been tested. And, you know, I can't stress how painful a death it is.
Yeah.
You know, if you leave it and it gets too late, it gets to the point it's not reversible. You look like that bloody Teletubby, Lala. Massive, yellow. It's not good.
Thank you very much, Danny. You know, I'd like to say thank you to our sponsors, Loved Ones Forever. And I would like you to share, subscribe, get this out there so we can maybe get some people tested, you know. You know, I'll be going back to my doctors and asking them to test me. I'll have more blood. I'll tell you what, they'll have more blood out of me than a vampire, you know. And and I would like to say thank you, Danny, for coming on and sharing your experience with Hep C.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's good to share the message. It's good to, you know, help and get it out there that it's not, you know, this stigma. It's ludicrous, Reg.
And this does go to show that men can talk today.
Certainly does.
You know, thank you very much, Dan. Thank you very much.